pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. Chris, if you would take the roll, please.
Councilmember Hoffman.
Here.
Councilmember Dupre.
Here.
Councilmember Cavanis.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Galloway.
Here.
Mayor Foote.
Here. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Chris, take the roll, please.
Councilmember Hoffman.
Here.
Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
Councilmember Dupre.
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanis.
Yes.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Beer and/or liquor applications for the Owl's Nest at 116 South Court Street. All applications pending final inspections. Recommendation, motion to approve.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Chris, take the roll.
Councilmember Hoffman.
Yes.
Councilmember Dupre.
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanis.
Yes.
Councilmember Reed.
No.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Discussion on item pulled from consent agenda on 3/3/2026, the January 2026 financial statements.
So to start the discussion, I asked Councilmember Dupre if she wanted to start and then turn it back over to you, Cole. So,
Okay, that's fine.
yep.
Well, first I wanted to explain why I wanted it pulled last time, and it was because I was confused looking at each month's beginning and ending balances and how they carried to the next month, which often, not often, but sometimes some of the line items, the funds were different, and it changed the bottom line. And I found that confusing, and so I had reached out to Mr. O'Connell, and he and I met today, and we went through it together, and he has explained to me the ins and outs of how this went. And there's a lot of things to consider, and I don't think that my feeling was that this report itself was confusing to the layperson or someone who's not in accounting and isn't working with those accounts. And then I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, thank you. So I also explained the process of how we get to the report. Lauren does the bank reconciliation, and then when she's done, she does the cash allocation, and then I run the report. Because, and at that point, the month is closed to cash transactions, but we still journal entry back possibly some revenues and expenditures that are credited to possibly the previous month, or in some cases, the previous quarter. So for example, we approved the second quarter transfers in February. When we then enter those through a journal entry, they go back all the way to December. So it changes the ending balance for December, which changes the beginning balance for January. That's because we operate on a modified accrual basis. We're not strictly cash. If we were strictly cash, then any transaction that happened in a month would count in that month and everything would be simple. The report that I presented in the format when I got here, it was the system gave us actual balance, actual revenues, actual expenditures, and actual cash balance at the end. The new system does not do that. What it does is when you look at the columns past the beginning balance, what it is pulling in all of the transactions that hit cash accounts. So sometimes there's some ins and some outs that for instance you'll see a revenue that's doubled and and the expenditure is half of what that is, and then it works out, what the cash balance is at the end. I understand that can be confusing without knowing all the different things. So when we sat with Councilmember Dupre, I had some suggestions for the report that I run, and so the changes that I had and it's the first sheet, is first I put a report date. So that way you know what day it's run. Because either one of these reports are a snapshot of the moment we run the report. If I ran a report right now and any transactions had occurred, the report would change, right? So I added a report date, and instead of beginning balance, I have adjusted balance. And then to accurately reflect what is actually occurring, it's debits and the credits. Now, again, it doesn't solve the overall confusion if there's some, like I said, hitting the cash account, taking out of the cash account, because the system does some things that when we do a transaction, it does some things in the cash account. It all comes out okay, because, and how I know it comes out okay is because the auditors confirm our cash balance. Okay, so I know it all comes out okay. So then on the second page is a report that we showed Councilmember Dupre. What it does is it gets rid of the opening balance, the debits, the credits, and just gives the ending cash balance for the month. So the question then I have is, which report would you like to have me run and present for approval at the council meeting? If you look, because what I did was I had Lauren run the new report at the same time that I ran my report, and if you look, the ending cash balances match on each report. So it's giving the same information. It's just that the original report has a lot more stuff to it. If all you want is the ending cash balance, the second report will give that to you.
Any questions or discussion?
So I have no problem with the report you gave us, since we are given the explanation as to how that works. Obviously, we don't know the details like you know the details, but we do understand that it's hard to just cut it and have a full picture. Things are going to move and have to get posted back and forth a little bit.
Right. And I, because what my report is produced through an Excel report, and we can put in formulas that pull in information, it does not offer a formula that will pull in just all of the revenues that came into the general fund or all of the expenditures that went out in the general fund. The only formulas that are there are pulling the information from the cash accounts.
Well, now that I understand it, I'm fine with the fact that you've added the report date. That way we know, and we can clarify that with anybody that should ask us why those things changed. And the second report I'm fine with also. It's up to the council as much detail. Do you want more detail, or do you want just the bottom line number?
And if you decided to go with the new report format, I would still provide information on the investments.
So the second report just gives the cash balance at the
Cash
end of the
balance at
month,
the time it's run.
at the time it's run. Okay.
Yep.
Which isn't always necessarily the end of the month. It could be.
Right. What happens is then when the next months come out and the beginning balance doesn't match the ending balance, there wouldn't be a question. Somebody wouldn't be as confused. The second report just gives you, that's the cash balance. I myself would run this to confirm this to make sure that we're okay.
I think the first report is appropriate. It does give the more details and then if you have questions, you can come and ask about the details too. So I think more details are good, especially with money.
I want to make sure that I'm giving you the information that you want. So
Appreciate that.
So is the consensus that the original report is okay?
With the addition of the dates.
With the additions, yes. Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Me
Thank
too.
you.
Do we need to vote on that, you think, or not?
Just have to, that'd be general consent.
Okay.
Council objects.
So yeah, I would just ask if there's any other objections to what's been proposed. Okay.
All right.
General
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah.
No, you approved it by general consent. There was no objection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So then next item on the agenda we have is the fiscal year 2027 budget discussion. So,
Correct.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Hopefully my voice will hold out here.
Yes.
If you see the wrappers, that'll be the number of cough drops I have tonight. In previous meetings, we informed the council that General Fund 001 has a significant projected shortfall for fiscal 27. That at that time it was $1 million, a little over $1 million. I went back and removed the revenues and expenses for the ambulance service, and when I did that, I also had to remove the amount that was being transferred from benefits to the general fund. So before I did that, it looked as if the shortfall was under 600,000. But once I removed those revenues that we're now not paying for any benefits, we are now at slightly over $1 million. Okay. I did go back and check all my worksheets to make sure, because I'm going, okay, want to make sure I'm giving you an accurate number. So I went through the worksheets. I did find that there were a couple of items that were entered into the system that were not pulling correctly into the worksheet. Once I corrected those, and one of the things that was not being pulled in was the fire inspection fees. And I think I sent out a second email saying we were at 1.112, right? Once I added those back in, again, we're now back to just over $1 million. So that's where we sit on the shortfall. I just want to remind you that within the general fund, almost 60% of proposed expenditures are in public safety, and that of all proposed expenditures across all departments, almost 72% are attributed to wages and benefits. And again, I'm only providing those as a frame of reference when reviewing the submitted ideas. 4 new positions are still within the budget. Those are administrative assistant in the fire department, planner in community development, a code enforcement officer in building and code, and code inspector in the fire department. Revenue from fire inspection fees are projected to cover the expenses for the code inspector for the fire department. Code enforcement and building and code is a proposed shared position between the city and Wapello County. The city will be reimbursed 1/2 of the salary and benefits for the position. Both the planner and the administrative assistant have no associated revenues to support the positions. A list of possible revenue enhancements and expenditure reductions was created, and department heads were requested to submit sheets that detail the idea, net revenue gain or reduction, net expenditure gain or reduction. Additionally, staff was requested to provide any impact on services as part of the idea. The ideas submitted are attached, and we're going to review them tonight. Library Fund 133 has a shortfall as well. The director has submitted ideas for her department. However, any revenue and expenditure changes will only apply to the library fund. It would not affect the general fund. While enterprise funds were not requested to submit ideas, there is one for the recycling fund 873. The savings, if approved, would apply again only to that fund. In addition to reviewing the library's proposals, you can say, yeah, that's great, but the library board has to make the final decision because they have that independent to set the budget. So when you look at the spreadsheet that I gave you that lists out the ideas, as you go through, it has the department making that would be affected, a short title of the idea. And then if you see a positive amount in the revenue, that's revenue added to the general fund, which would reduce the shortfall. If you see a negative, that is revenue that would be subtracted that may or may not increase the shortfall, depending if there is not a sufficient offset in expenditures. Because some of the ideas, if you do them, there isn't an associated revenue. When you look at the expenditure side, if it is a negative amount, that is a reduction in expenditures and reduces the shortfall. If it is a positive amount, it adds to the expenditures, but again, is there a net increase or decrease once you factor everything in? Any questions on how that was prepared?
On the last column, I had a little question. So
Yeah.
that top line is a franchise fee. Obviously, that's money that's going to increase revenue. And then the net to the general fund
Right.
is a positive number there.
Right.
And so like the next line down, when you show a staff reduction possibly, that net to the general fund shows that's a negative number there.
Right, but okay, so what it is a positive number in that column if it's a revenue, if the idea is a revenue enhancement, a positive number again adds revenue to the general fund and reduces the shortfall.
But this one is a early retirement, which means it would at first be a loss, but in future years, it would be a potential revenue.
Yeah, and so what it is all we're providing is the effect on the general fund at this moment, okay? And so when you see a negative amount in there, that is a reduction in expenditures. Now, if the idea is a expenditure reduction, but the net effect to the general fund is a positive, it means that is really not necessarily a good idea because it actually would increase the expenditures and increase the shortfall.
Right. Okay. So that's why almost all of them are in brackets.
Right.
Because they are generally
Right.
helpful.
And then when you look at it, you can see just the second line item there, the proposed staff reduction in the finance department. You get the total expenditure reduction, but that includes wages, benefits, and the benefits are paid through the benefits levy. So what it is if we're not paying those benefits, we're not going to receive that income from the benefits levy. So really what it is you get the net effect to the general fund, which would be mostly salary. Okay. So what I plan on doing is introducing these, and then if you have specific questions, you can ask the department heads. I will try to, provide support or any information that I need to on each of these. I don't want to stand up here and talk the whole night because I won't be able to speak tomorrow. So, but the first two ideas are finance department, so I'll start with those. So the first one is a revenue enhancement, which would be an increase in the franchise fee. The estimated revenue based upon a 1% increase is $478,333. Current revenue estimates for the franchise fee is $1,435,000 at a 3% fee. If you divide that by 3, you get that $478,333 for every 1% of the fee. So that's how you would get that increase. As franchise fees are designed to support public safety operations, police, dispatch, and fire, the additional revenue could be used to fund open positions in the police department and dispatch. Public safety functions are 60% of the general fund. Providing additional revenue to support public safety will help reduce the possibility of cuts in service. If the fees were increased to beyond 1%, it is possible the general fund revenues would increase expenditures. That was when I also thought that we were only $600,000 short. The surplus could then be used to partially fund police and fire benefits directly from the general fund, thereby reducing the benefits levy. However, you could still do that with the extra 1%, It's just you would also have to find additional cuts to balance the fund. I got information from Alliant Energy estimating an average residential customer's monthly bill to be $150. Certainly there are some that are more and some that are less, but they come up with $150. A 1% increase would add $1.50 a month to a average bill, or $18 a year based upon that average. So that's a 1% increase. Mid-American sent me information on their average today. So the average residential bill is $54.94. So basically $55. Going from 1% or 3% to 2% would be an additional 55 cents a month on the average bill, or $6.60 a year.
You mean
were to
going to
do-
4?
What's that?
You mean a 1% increase going to 4%?
Yeah, the additional 1%. Yeah, the additional 1% would be an additional $6.60 a year, or 55 cents a month on an average bill. So if you take that into account, if you were to do the 1%, an average household would increase on an annual basis $24.60.
Say
To
that
their
number
utility
one more
bills.
time for me.
What's that?
Say that number one more time for me.
Okay,
24,
$24.60
thank you.
on an average bill.
Yep.
Now, what I plan on tonight is that if you have any questions,
Yes.
give the questions, and then you wouldn't necessarily have to make any decision tonight, but you would have to give us some direction on what you might want us to look at, and then maybe come back with how that affects the bottom line.
So in general, I tend to be opposed to franchise fees being added. This isn't very much, it doesn't seem like, for a family, but, originally I said I didn't want a franchise fee, but I'm willing to hear what other people think about that.
It's not a popular decision, I can tell you.
Right.
Any place, it's not a popular decision.
Right.
I think to have a real good discussion on franchise fees, we really need to process through the rest of it and come back and see the reality of our situation. That would just be my.
So what I can do is I can run a scenario where we do a 1%, 2%, and how that affects the bottom line.
Perfect.
I'm going by memory, but not too far back in time, we increased the franchise fees on all those?
We imposed the franchise fee at 3%. That was the start. That was the start. It was never lower than 3%.
Right. When was that we did that? Do you
Was that
remember?
23?
I think so. It was
About 5 years ago.
right before 718 got passed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's.
I'm hearing two different times.
It's at least 2 years.
2 years.
Because they were in place when I took my position.
Yeah, I just remember being at a city council meeting and hearing it since I moved here. Okay, thank you.
Pretty sure it was 5 years ago.
So we'll run some scenarios and come back with the bottom line on that. I would like to say that Councilmember Galloway proposed having individual meetings to maybe go through some of the line items. What I would suggest is that we start maybe doing that next week so that you can get some of your line item questions answered.
Yeah.
And then again, if there happens to be any changes with that, we can present that. I would list out any questions that the council members would have on the line item, and then present that to everybody as well. Okay. So we'll run a scenario on that. Okay. What I will tell you is that if you went up to 5%, you would be within $50,000, $60,000 of balancing the general fund. You could then not fund the two non-funded positions, and you'd have it balanced for this year. If you decide to go with the franchise at whatever level, there will still need to be a lot of discussion in the upcoming year on what cuts need to be made, because no matter what the legislature does up there, the money coming in is not equaling the money going out. And so there will have to be further discussion on how to reduce expenditures in the general fund.
Yeah, it's not franchise fees aren't like a fix all. It's definitely, there has to be other conversations.
Correct.
Other cuts, other looks.
It could be a fix-all for this year, but not going forward.
But I also think we as a council really have to think not beyond just this year. I think that we've done that a lot. We've kind of been in the how are we going to get through this year? But we have to be forward thinking because we continue to cripple ourselves, and we can't continue to do that.
It was October of 22 was when they were established.
Thank you.
And what level of franchise fee was it then?
What's that?
What was the franchise fee?
When it was imposed, it was 3% and what it is currently.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, the next idea is to reduce one staff member in the finance department. Estimated total reduction in expenditures is $76,315. However, when you calculate out all the different things that go into that, $58,000 in salary would be direct to the general fund. The IPERS, the other employee benefits, would be a reduction in expenditure and revenue. We would face having possible unemployment costs, which would, in our current estimation, be around $9,000. So the total, and so that adds up to the total reduction. But again, the direct impact to the general fund would only be around $49,000. The accounting specialist for accounts receivable is responsible for invoicing various departments, receipts and recording funds, preparation of deposits, sending late notices, recovery of past due accounts, managing of city-held mortgages, and payroll processing. Reduction of this position will require all other positions within the department to increase data entry. This will likely delay critical analysis of finance and reports. Past due notices and recovery of funds will be delayed and/or significantly reduced. For the last quarter of 2025, the employee in this position was out on medical leave, and the conditions outlined above did occur. It is also one of the reasons why the audit was delayed, because during the time that she was out, we were having to concentrate on data entry and other things, and weren't able to get the information to the auditor.
And also the audit specifically mentioned shorthanded in that
Correct.
department.
We would face even smaller segregation of duties.
Right.
When the department switched to the financial systems, one accounting specialist position was eliminated for fiscal year 25. The new system created efficiencies which allowed the accounts receivable accounting specialist to take on past due collections, credit card system management, and management of city-held mortgages. Though through the employees' efforts, the Iowa Set-Off program, and this total is different. What did I give you? It was over 13,000 now?
It was $13,581.98 since December.
Right, since December. And the original 12,733 that I gave you was since the beginning of last year. So since December, that it's even more than what was for that full year. It's likely that given the additional data entry requirements that remaining staff would be unable to maintain the recovery system. Additionally, reduction of finance personnel decreases the segregation of duties necessary to reduce the likelihood of fraud. So again, we present this, discussion, questions, and then if you want us to include it in any scenarios.
If we have the fire inspection fees, wasn't this person going to be doing those also?
No. That's an entirely separate position that would be within the fire department, not within the finance department.
So the fire department will be doing the billing?
No, we would be doing the billing.
That's what
but
I
the
meant.
But the accounting specialist or the administrative specialist for the fire department would be doing other things in relation to the inspections and the work necessary at the fire department. This is separate.
I'm talking about the billing
Right.
for those fees. Would that be done by are you saying that was going to be done by
If we did not have this position, we would ask other departments
Okay.
to do their billing. The problem is, one of the reasons why we like to do it is because we can then make sure that it's correct, that it's being
Right.
received and coded correctly. We don't get a chance to review the bills if the departments send them out directly.
That's what I meant. I was
Yeah.
just making sure.
Yeah.
Because if you get rid of this, then you're down even more.
Correct.
Thank you.
So that doesn't seem to me to be a workable thing to take out that staff member.
Well, I can tell you that as other people get up here and with their staff reduction ideas, they're going to tell you the same thing. But you get to decide the tough decision on what to do.
Just my 2 cents before we do anything. I think it's an insane idea to add people when we're discussing if we need to remove people. So my opinion is no additions until everybody who's already with us is safe, or we looked at every possible avenue.
And that's a very prudent idea.
Any other questions for Cole?
Okay. So the next one is out of the city clerk department, which would be removing additional Laserfish options, expenditure reduction of $1,500, removal of additional Laserfish user options to add individuals, which is $708 per user. We reduced those 2 licenses that aren't being used.
I say cut it.
That one was easy.
That's an easy one.
Yes. Small but easy.
Feel good about that one.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is also from the city clerk.
Is that a consensus?
Yeah. The next one is also from the city clerk, but I'm going to let Chris go ahead and walk through this one.
Do I have to?
Hey,
Just kidding, Cole.
I had to do mine.
Well, and this is, obviously, it is a very broad guess as to how it would affect our general fund expenditures. As you know, my admin assistant has been here for quite a few years. The discussion was thrown around about offering early retirement. I don't know if that's anything that is feasible at this point, but I will tell you that my office is 2 people. So if you take one of those people away, you have 1 person down there. So, and I don't know if it would be to replace that person in the future. I don't know. That's another tough decision to decide by council.
It
So.
is possible you could leave the position open to be filled at a later time.
But I could also tell you too that I would then have no immediate backup. So if I get hit by a garbage truck tomorrow, you're not going to have anyone. You're not going to have anyone up here to fill this position. So I would have a lot of other delays too. So delays in provisions would be expected, from waiting on people at the counter to issuing licenses through my office, missing deadlines of mandated items. So publication of council meeting minutes, notices to the paper, recorder, et cetera, would all be delayed. That being said, I would probably not be able to continue with my continuing education courses, which is fine, but that is part of my certification that I have. But it is an option to consider. The calculation I did up there was obviously just a very generalized, which I don't know what kind of retirement packages we would even be looking at if we entertain that option. So that was just going by a 2% of her annual salary and then times the years of service, which she's been here for 21 years. So
The other aspect of this is that we could be in the position where if we offer one person an early retirement, we would have to offer anybody within we could define it as if you're within 3 years of, reaching maximum or something like that, or 3 years of being 65 or whatever else, right? You can define that so it limits the number, but you would probably still have to offer to any employee that meets the criteria.
In all reality, and I have to be blunt, and Cole, it's nothing against you. I think you put this together great, but in reality, if we took that position away from Chris, it would just never come back. That's the way it would be. It would just be money saving. And again, I'm going to use that word. I think it would be absolutely insane. Chris does so much for the city and keeps everybody straight and does so much. I think it's just not even feasible to take somebody away from her. If her assistant would retire on her own, to me, it's still a replaceable position. So,
And here's just another thing to consider too, that if she does decide to retire, or if this is a position you could bring on as a part-time position, I don't know if that's something we could entertain, because I could have someone in there on the days that would be the most busy for me.
Here's what it is any position going forward is going to be looked at as to its need, its function. Can the duties be reassigned without causing problems? That's done. That's been being done, and it will continue to be done. So anytime a position becomes open, we do reevaluate it.
I agree with Councilman Hoffman. I don't think we can leave that office with one person in it. That's my opinion.
It's been my experience that when you take admin support away from anybody, it kind of cripples the heartbeat of what's going on. And Chris is the heartbeat of what's going on here in the city hall.
Okay. So we'll set that one aside as well.
No.
Chris, you've got advertising and legal publications, and I do want to add to some of this is that there is a bill in the legislature right now that would allow us to post all of our postings to a statewide website. And I think it's $5 a posting.
Yep, $5
That would save a ton of money
Like $5 for everything.
for a posting.
for
per
every posting.
So right now, we're paying obviously a lot more than that for everything that we publish in the paper. But as I mentioned here, so my monthly amounts are trending around $1,200 per month. So my current budget request was $19,000 for the upcoming fiscal year. So if I go by the trending amount, I could reduce the amount in that one by about $2,000. So, and if that bill passes, that would be, we could reduce it even more so,
Correct.
but who knows
Yeah.
on that one. But I mean, this one is a very feasible
so you're
reduction as
comfortable
well.
with, you're comfortable with the reduction.
Absolutely.
So that's good.
I will tell you that they've had bills like this before, and the Newspaper Association has killed them.
They did pass the one last year though, and for the changing of from the 4 and 20.
Yes.
I mean, they
Right.
made it so that's always 4 and 20 instead of the 6 and 10 or 6 and 20. So
Right.
that helped us a little bit,
Sure.
but this one would help us even more so.
Right. Part of the difficulty is there are multiple towns out there do not have a hometown newspaper. So, all right. Again, the next one is city clerk.
Yeah, this next one was actually, so the mileage rate changed from 70 cents per mile to 72 cents. And when I looked through my numbers, it looks like I did not budget correctly for that because at the time we didn't know that mileage rate was changing. So there's actually an increase in the mileage from,
Oh, wait a minute. You got trading expense first.
oh, that's the one I'm reading. I combined, so it's the mileage
Oh,
rate
and
with
it's both of
the,
those? Okay.
yeah, it's
All right.
together. So the mileage rate went from 153 to 165, so it's an additional $12 added to that line. And then the removal of the Iowa Public Information Board mandatory training through Allers and Cooney. So with the passing of the bill last year that mandates all boards and commissions to attend the open meetings training, Allers and Cooney was offering the training, and it was like $50 per person at a maximum of $200. So however many you had signed up. At the time, that was around the only one that was offered. So I had like 8 people that I had to register for that. So it did cost us to attend those, which it was all online. But Iowa League of Cities offers these trainings free to all cities. So I'm just going to make sure that we always utilize the free one. So then I can remove the 200 out of my budget for that. So original budget amount was $965. So I've reduced $188. So some nickel and dime in there, but hey, it's a reduction, so we'll take it.
Every dollar counts.
So that one is a feasible one in my opinion as well.
Good.
Okay.
And there's no direct impact on services for that either, so. Okay, then the next one is travel and conference expenses. So mileage needed to be adjusted for this one as well. I attend the IMFOA, which is a spring conference and a fall conference, so it's twice a year. And then it also has for my certification courses for my continuing ed, which is just once a year is when I go up to Ames for that. So again, the rate was, I budgeted at 70 cents per mile, but it should be 72 cents. So an increase of $43 to my budget line
so
item.
your net there would be 145?
Between the two items, yes.
So it's 145 net.
So if you combine all the last one and this one together, that's the net difference. Again, that's another no-brainer there, so.
Sounds good.
Right. So the next one is proposed by engineering, reimbursing third-party project numbers. I will say that we did have a contact from the Trails Committee that this would impact their ability to do some of the work. And I think that Philip recognizes that.
Okay, so this came from me. We don't do a lot of general fund work in the engineering department. Most of it is sewer fund and road use and street projects. But a few of the things that we do are like the skate park last year. We inspected that. The Market Street sign that Legacy paid for, we inspected. Anything that like Legacy or the Trails Department gets funds for, we'll do a lot of the inspection for it. Sometimes we do design work for them as well. So this was just requiring that any third party that wants to build something for the city, they reimburse the city for our benefit wage to inspect the project or do the design for the project. Just coming up for next year, there's 2 trail projects coming up that we had planned to do. I just estimated the number of hours it would take to design and for project management and for inspection on those projects. There's also a street project that Legacy has been designing, and without having the plans done for those, I estimated about a 3-month construction window, which averaged out to about 400 inspection hours and 40 project management hours for that. So overall, we'd be paying roughly $50,400 for inspection and design services in those projects. I'm going to go out. I have a list of impacts I have, and maybe Gene can expand upon that. But if the Trails Council had to reimburse the city for design and construction management services, it would not only greatly slow down trail construction, the quality and extent of the trail system would be impacted in a negative way. It would also jeopardize existing funding that they have already gotten, assuming that we would assist them with some of our own funds. Like I said, last year we spent about 500, or this last fiscal year, we spent around 500 hours so far on the skate park, Market Street sign, and the inclusive play space. We're probably gonna spend another 200 hours the remainder of this fiscal year. So again, it would impact Legacy the same way. When Legacy funds a project, they don't pay the city to inspect it. We just inspect it because we're gonna take possession of it. We wanna make sure everything's done correctly. So if they had to pay that cost to us to inspect their project, that would also extend the timelines for stuff they want to do.
Philip, I have
and-
a question regarding that.
Yeah.
So with the projects that are already done, have they been written? I can't remember that's our contribution, because oftentimes you have to have partnership contributions. So if that's our contribution, then aren't we?
One trail project that has some state funding with it. That's part of our contribution, is our in-kind contribution. A smaller project that we were going to design in-house and let in-house. I don't think the funding's tied to that, but I don't think they have funding available that they can add on the cost of a design and inspection onto the construction costs. It would probably take both those projects and make them not feasible to construct, at least at the present time. And they might lose the funding altogether and have to reapply for it.
I just wanted to add real quick that when they apply for grants, these organizations don't receive the money directly. It gets funneled through us many times. And so we, the city, have to provide a contribution, and the way we do it is the in-kind services.
And then with the legacy project, it is under design now. Obviously includes a play space being constructed. The Market Street project is under design now. It's not finished design, but I'm pretty sure you won't see it started this year if they have to come up with even more money for us to inspect it. That'd be up to Legacy to make any details on that.
So it seems like we'd be kind of shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit by making it hard on these other groups to do things for the city. And it seems like kind of being unthankful too. Plus we need in-kind support oftentimes. So I was wondering what to think about this exactly, but it just doesn't seem like it would be.
It was pretty much the only thing I had to offer. Because I don't think we can transfer it to other funds. We can't transfer that cost out of general fund because it's not a street expense. It's not a sewer expense. That's why we charge the general fund for that time.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. The alarm's going off.
There's a storm. Southeast, so it should be.
I want to ensure.
It should clear us.
What? Okay. Tornado? Okay.
Well,
I'm a bit terrified of tornadoes. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Guess, is there any other questions on this one? Sounds like net impact is not good, like a negative.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the next one is administration, eliminate costs shared with the Visitors and Convention Bureau.
All right, I guess I start out similar to other comments that this is not something I am recommending, but a request was made to look at all of the different entities that we contribute dollars to, and our cost share with CVB is one of those. So we are under contract with them, and they get currently 40% of the hotel motel tax for next year. That is estimated at $535,000 of revenue. 40% of that is $214,000, which would go to the CVB or Ottumwa. Eliminating that payment would also remove incentive for CVB to advertise, as if they're not getting the dollars towards that. And that was an estimated reduction of a 15% in total revenue. Obviously, we'd still have people staying in hotels, but without active advertising, that could decrease. That would drop that amount to $454,750. And so then the difference then, 535 minus the 80,250. If the remaining funds were distributed to Beach and BVC, that would be $133,750 of additional revenue. So like I was mentioning, the loss of revenue to meet Ottumwa or CVB would be crippling. The city would lose a partner for advertising travel to the city and the region. CVB supports local business in addition to the city. The loss of revenue to CVB would have a negative impact on the tourism to the city. Additionally, the city could get the stigma of not being a good partner with other entities or the business community. City is under contract with CVB until June 30th of 28 for that 40% contribution of the hotel motel tax received. It's an incentive-based contract, has worked well, and it benefits both entities in the past, as the more hotel stays results in an increased receipt of the taxes and more revenue for both the CVB and the city. Currently, the Iowa legislature is considering Senate File 2441, which would place certain restrictions on hotel motel tax proceeds. Bill would limit use of tourism development and tourism promotion. While staff believes that using hotel motel proceeds to support the BBC The Beach could qualify as tourism development, tourism promotion, would limit the funds to those activities. The CVB would meet the tourism promotion definition.
So I'd like to comment on this one, actually. So just a few things. And I know Laura's here and Olson with me to Ottumwa. The one thing I do want to talk about is they do play an important role in bringing visitors, events, and tourism into our community. Not only that, but they are one of our main organizations that push for conferences and events. So the Sports Center, the Bridgeview Center, also some other venues in here. Also under Iowa Code 423A.7, at least 50% of those revenues must be used for tourism, promotion, or recreation, convention, cultural, or entertainment facilities. And Meet Ottumwa does help fulfill that legal purpose by promoting us. I do think that this would be, by eliminating or reducing this, it would be a huge loss for our local economy.
I will tell you that last year, the hotel motel tax was significantly higher. I don't know if I can attribute it to anything that any one organization did or anything else, but it was higher last year.
I would be comfortable contributing that to Laura and Olson at Meet Ottumwa.
And the code that you quoted is the code that they're looking to change with 2441.
Which I maybe would push back a little bit and disagree with Administrator Rath that I do think it would limit where we could go. And I don't know, from my understanding of it, again, not 100%. I don't know if we would be able to
the
give
last
it.
paragraph, I added that after it was submitted.
Okay.
So once the definition came in and the state would decide exactly what qualifies in any of those, that's when we would have to decide how things worked out. Definitely the money that is contributed to Meet Ottumwa meets the tourism promotion side of it. The tourism development, it becomes, depending upon what they think that is, it becomes a little bit more of a thinner line.
Right.
Can we say that any event that the BBC brings in is now an expansion of an event or event promotion? Possibly. Again, I don't know. The other part of this is that this bill would require that we detail those activities and the amounts as part of our annual report to the state.
Yep.
So.
But if we're under contract till 2028, why would this even be an issue now?
Well, there's a clause in there. We could get out of it, but I'm saying that that contract is there unless anything else changes. The percentages are there. It would be ceasing the contract based on notice, giving notice properly and saying we're not going to do it anymore.
I see.
I don't, whether it's Meet Ottumwa or any of the other organizations that help promote the city, that's just taking away revenue from ourselves. And that's not what we want to do. We want to go the other direction.
I agree. I also think that those three other organizations, Meet Ottumwa, Greater GoPIP, and Main Street Ottumwa, help us look kind of long-term because economic development isn't a today thing. It's a long-term plan. So, I mean, I have been accused of being in the Main Street Mafia, and so that I'm a supporter of Main Street, which I am, and GoPIP and Meet Ottumwa because they do some pretty great things. So,
It's not a reasonable reduction, in my opinion.
Right. Okay, then we'll move on to human resources, removing one authorized headcount.
So kind of like what was talked about before, we're a department of two, and this would be a reduction of either one of us. Right now we've got about 220 employees. In the heat of the summer, we're going to have 250, 260 employees. Having one HR person for all of that is very unrealistic. There are no services that would be cut with this. All of the things that we provide would then be reassigned to the departments. So currently, with interviewing and background checks and drug tests, interpretation of policy, timesheets, anything like that, all of that responsibility would then fall back to the departments. So there's not really a service that we would cut. It would just be, we have one person within the department. Any type of assistance that the departments would need, that response time would slow down significantly. It just would, the support wouldn't be there for the departments to do what they're best at.
Barb, why do you do payroll and HR?
So I do timesheets. So what we do is we do the timesheet portion of it. And then once all of the employees' timesheets are figured correctly, it then goes to payroll. It goes over to finance. That helps to provide the segregation of duties. So we input all of the base compensation, make sure that the timesheets are calculating appropriately based on all of the contracts and everything. But we don't actually process the payroll. That goes over to finance.
That makes good sense. Thank you.
Yes.
So this statement here saying that UKG costs would go up if one of you were removed, how does that play into the timesheet?
So anytime we make a change to the UKG system, so for example, when UKG was set up, it was actually started back in 2019, and not much was ever done with it. From what I can tell in the system is that there were some things that were started in there but never finished. And then from my understanding, and I was not here at that time, but there were a couple of different efforts made to try and go to the UKG system, because prior to that, we did all of our HR management by index cards. Everything pertaining to our employee was done on index cards. And so when I came on board in 2021, we went through the process of getting UKG set up, and we went live with it in the fall of 2021. And so the system was set up based on the contracts at that time, our personnel policies, anything like that. So like if we make any changes to a contract and the way that we figure up overtime, take for example, the one big beautiful bill that was passed. And so there's a change to the way that taxes are reported on FLSA qualified overtime. It's a change in the system. We have to change the system and the pay calculations to make sure that things are reported properly. I was part of that setup for the system, so I am semi-confident in my abilities within the system that I can make a lot of those changes on my own. I've worked with my HR generalist to make some of those different changes and the finance department. If we were not comfortable to do that, we have to open a service ticket with UKG, and any changes that are made, not if the system isn't operating correctly, but if there's any changes to that, depending upon what that change is, it can be anywhere from $3,100 to $7,300 per change that is made.
Thank you.
With that as well, our legal fees would increase, because again, a lot of the things that we take a look at is we do look at legally what we're bound by, whether it's contracts, the contract negotiations themselves. There's more legwork that they would have to do on their end. There's a lot of policy creation and adjustments and things like that that HR does. Again, anything employment related falls under the HR umbrella. And so if for some reason there was less people within that department, that would not be able to get done, and our attorneys would be required to do a lot more work, which would then increase their bill as well.
So it seems to me like you definitely need your people in there, both of you.
I selfishly love another person to do risk management, but we'll take what we can get.
So sounds like you guys are doing a lot of the work. How about this UKG? I mean, so it's been since 2019 a little bit, but then you've got it going more in 21, it sounds like, or something. Is that's really an essential, it's probably an expensive thing that we're dealing with there.
It is. It does cost us total between us and finance. It does cost us about $6,300 a month, I believe it is. So it's about $70,000 a year. Given everything that it does, it is very essential. any type of electronic tracking system for our employees. I mean, Chris can attest, we get FOIA requests for employee information, and we can get that information, pull it in about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, where prior to UKG, that was a multi-day process. When I first come on in 2021, I was not able to get a spreadsheet of all of our current employees because we had to go through index cards. So UKG does allow us to do all of our accrual tracking. So all of our employees' time off, it's all tracked within there. It's all any time off that they have, anything that they earn, it's all through there. Everything HR related, so all of our benefits administration. So insurances, whether it's medical, dental, vision, life insurance, that is all tracked within there. Employees can file life change events in there. That information then also goes over to Wellmark and to Avisus and Symetra, which is our other partners. So it's an automatic transfer over. We do not have to maintain 2 or 3 or 4 different systems because of that, where before we did have to do that. We maintained a Wellmark system, we maintained a Symetra system, administrative advantage for our flexible spending accounts. All of those were individually maintained. Where now with UKG, that information automatically gets sent over based on the information that we have in there, and it automatically gets sent over to our providers. We have performance evaluations that are done within there, all of our forms. So like we had a phone call today where we had an accident. Our accident report forms are available in there. Those are things that as we've had time to update and take feedback from departments of, hey, this is broken or this, it's not working right, we can actually go in there and put all of those custom forms. All of our policies are in there. So again, an employee that has a question on something, they can actually log into there and find those documents. So selfishly, but it's a wealth of knowledge, and our employees have that information at their fingertips. They now, instead of going off of a pay stub, they can log in immediately. They know exactly what their pay is. They know exactly what their time off accruals are. If they have a question on what our personnel policies are or any other policy, all of that information is in there for them. So it's really a tool for all of our employees to be able to utilize too.
Thanks.
Okay, I think you've hit the ball.
Okay, so the next one is this is one of those new positions, and it's in the fire department. It's the administrative specialist. Again, this was one that does not have funding. We prepared it outside of it, but if you want to ask any questions, the staff member will be responsible for paperwork and follow-up. Assistant chiefs work rotating schedules. This person could be there dedicated Monday through Friday as an administrative specialist and do the follow-up. The fire department is the only department other than airport that does not have administrative support. There's a possibility that a portion of these duties could be combined with another position, and that's something to evaluate. But any other questions, I'll leave to Chief Canto.
Any questions for Chief Canto?
What is the possibility of having, hate to throw out names because they might want to shoot me, but some of our other people that we already have, doing some of that are right in the building,
Well, I think it would have to be evaluated what their current job responsibilities are, and
if they have the time.
if they even have the time to do it. When you look at a fire department administrative assistant, you want to try to get somebody that has some experience in public safety background, that understands some of the processes that go along with it. As Cole said, we're the only department, and what we do in administration, a lot of the stuff that we do is for the fire department. There's a lot of administrative duties that were not done previously, and that has put us behind the 8 ball. such things as monthly reports and pulling data and making sure that, we started some of the cost recovery, the information that needs to go along with that. The fire department as a whole has been degraded and dismantled prior to my arrival. We're doing a lot of wearing a lot of multiple hats within the organization. And so when you try to become a jack of all trades, you end up being a master of none. And so again, this position is relevant. I would venture to say that I think there would be potential that some of the funding for this position would come out of the fire inspection and cost recovery stuff that we are doing. I can't say how much that would be, but I would feel pretty confident that some of that cost would be covered within that as well.
If you brought in someone new, that same problem would exist for training. So as opposed to having someone that's already in the fire department, being somewhat familiar.
You can find people. I've gone through this process before, and you find individuals that may have worked for another fire department. They may have worked for an EMS agency. They may have worked for a police department. And so they have there's people out there that have that background. And so there is information that is important that they understand, like HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability Act. And so, yes, there might be some training, but there are people that do have relevant experience in some of those areas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I got to fall back on my earlier comments. This is nothing against the chief. I know he's worked hard on this, but I just feel like when I'm looking through these pages and I'm hearing other people speak, we got people worried about losing their jobs, and we got outside city people worrying about getting their budget cut. And this isn't a shot at his departments at all. I just don't see how we can add until we say what we have.
I would say, with and I don't believe it's in there, the fire inspector position that pays for itself through the fire inspections.
Right.
So that's kind of a different.
Well, that's different when you're getting revenue back. This is a
Right, I understand that.
And I mean, is there a possibility that it would be enough revenue to pay for the assistant?
I guess we could find out within once we get that position, the fire inspector position in place, and we have a full year's worth of information and data that goes along with that.
All those fees are not, some of them are semi-annual and 3-year fees.
They are, but the way we have, looked at that together is that it would be a consistent income splitting up the 2 years, the 3 years, with cost recovery that, during the last couple of weeks, we've already issued out almost $5,000 worth of cost recovery due to people illegally burning. And so, again, I think we'll have some better data and some better numbers within the next, probably the first 6 months having a fire inspector in place. We'll know what's going on with that.
So my suggestion would be, based upon that discussion, would be to remove the position currently and reevaluate once we have, in future years, once we have more information on revenues.
Yep.
So the next one up is removal of the additional code compliance officer. With this one, there is a revenue loss because the $52,375 is half of the cost of the position that would be reimbursed from the county. So the actual savings on that would be $27,754. The current staff would then be responsible for duties. Given current workloads, this may increase response times and not allow for full realization of projects. And the county would still have their difficulty in completing what they need this joint position for.
And we got consent from the county to bill them for half of this person?
Yes, yeah, we've worked out the agreement. I know Amal has done that. Anything you want to add, Amal?
I think that's it. The whole idea was prompted by them asking us to have an MOU with them to do inspections for them, and they were ready in this budget, fiscal year 26. They're ready to sign an agreement with us. We told them we are in the process of developing the 27 budget. It would be more appropriate to consider it as such because we are also behind on our inspections related to housing code. It would be a good idea to assess our need and put in the budget a position that can serve the both of us.
This would also potentially bring funding in, correct?
With the share, 50% from the
with
county?
like inspections and fees and that kind of stuff, long-term.
That's kind of coming in because the building, they have a building fee, right? A permit, I should say. So the inspection just comes with that, right?
Yes, building, and we're gearing it more towards the housing inspection, and we're behind on that program
Okay.
because of the lack of capacity. And we were also discussing vacant building registration, and we couldn't really address that because we lack the capacity to take that on since we're already behind on the housing program. And this is a program we cannot really neglect given the condition and the age of the housing stock we have in town requires a lot of attention. Most of the time inspectors have is dedicated to nuisance and mostly complaint driven. And we would like to get to a point we are proactive instead of reactive. That's why the position was discussed and considered for this budget.
Amal, the reason I asked that question in the beginning was that I understand the county is also struggling with their budget.
Correct.
So that was the reason I asked that question.
Yes, but when they came to us to discuss this, they said they're ready to go with this project with their fiscal year 2026 budget. So they have the funding to cover this.
Would they be a city employee or a county employee?
It would be a city employee.
Yeah, it would be a city employee, but his time would be split 50-50.
So wait, or benefits, everything. Okay.
That the amount that you see in there is the revenue reduction is calculated on salary benefits, everything that was included, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, health insurance. The amount could be reduced if because we budget as a full family, and if they come in at something else, then we reduce our expenditures, but then we also reduce the amount of revenue coming in accordingly.
So it seems like it could be, it'd be great if it could work out because, we're getting basically a part-time employee, but somebody that could be shared and help with this need.
I would also add that the state is looking for us to more and more engage in shared services as local governments. And I've heard part of the discussion this session was a source of revenue in the form of grants. I don't know how that looked like, but the state is considering helping local governments to encourage.
Isn't there a current bill that identifies that something removing or working together, I don't know exactly, the health department with the county and the city? No? Maybe it didn't make it through funnel.
I know as part of some of the budget proposals that the governor had money proposed that would help fund studies or projects to get counties and cities to collaborate. This would fall under that. In the discussions on property tax that the governor had around the state, one of the things was pushing to have shared services. This would be a way for us to be able to get some of the projects and things done and provides the county with what they need for their position.
I think one of the supervisors was going to be checking into the possibility of combining county and city and possibly other areas to share those expenses. I don't know what it takes from the state level, but he was going to check into it in any event. And I don't see him here tonight, so.
We'd have to identify those services that would be possible to share. Not everything is able to. If we were a more metropolitan area with, multiple cities that are connected, then, there's more possibilities of sharing police force, fire, snow plows and things like that. We're limited in our geographical area.
So if he or she is a city employee, who determines how the split is between whether it's city or county? Who's in charge of this person?
My department, we would be managing the scope of work. They will be assigned 20 hours to be working for the county, do inspections for the county.
They would be 40 hours, you said? For the
40 hours a week, yes.
Okay. And so it'd be a 20/20 split.
20/20.
What I will say is in other shared positions, sometimes what happens is that in a certain week, there might be more city work done versus county work. And then at other times, there might be more county work done than city work. But it usually equals out at the end. So based upon the discussion, we'll go ahead and keep that position in at this point. All right. So the next one is the adding of the planner. This would have, if we did not fund this position, that the net to the, I'm trying to find it here. There it is. The net to the general fund would be $67,184. This would, again, push the duties back on to the department and the staff, and that, it keeps the additional pressure. But I'll let Amal speak to how this would work within the department if we had the position.
Goes back to us wanting to be proactive. We do have a lot of workload that is pure planning, working with updating our code, working within the neighborhood, specifically the urban renewal. There is a lot of planning work that needs to be done, cleaning up our code, creating plans, and administering the code. We want someone with training as a planner to be able to manage planning projects as well as maintaining the zoning code.
As well as maintain what?
Zoning code.
Zoning code.
How's Jake doing in the department? Is he capable of helping in some of those areas?
Definitely.
Been there a long time.
Definitely. You ask and Jake will do. He's
Thank
been filling in, wearing a lot of hats. But we're spread thin, both him and I, with the building and urban renewal and economic development needs. Right now, our focus is on development with the thriving community designation, but we don't want to neglect the other areas that we need to address. Processes needs cleaned up, plans need to be prepared, updates. I've been working in updating as I go. but I see a lot of work needs to be done.
Thank you.
One more time, let's give my opinion. We got departments that we're asking to do more with less. So, until everybody's safe, till we got our budgets, till every department is square. In my opinion, I'm not speaking for the council. I say no additions until we are for sure that all of our current people are safe. I promise it's the last time I'll say it tonight.
Well, that's because that's the last new position. It worked. Go ahead. The next one is leaving a vacancy in the dispatcher's office, and I'll let the chief go ahead and present.
So breakdown, we're currently budgeted for 8 dispatchers. We are currently sitting at 2. I have 2 of those staff members. Of that, 6 are eligible for retirement. I did note on the form for you that the National Emergency Number Association, that's the entity that provides our telecommunicators with advocacy training certification. They have a staffing tool. Supervisor TJ Milliken filled out. They look at call load, what our dispatchers do and how they serve the community. That staffing tool shows we technically should be at 11 full-time dispatchers. I also gave you, it's not just for police. This is dispatching all fire EMS personnel to calls. You have a quick breakdown of the workload, 44,786 administrative calls, 11,310 911 calls, and they serviced 421 911 text messages for 2025. My numbers there, I'm not going to obviously read it all to you. That's how I broke down that obviously this will increase the overtime budget. I figure minus 1 person took the average of the overtime rate at 2,080 hours because that's what they work annually. And that's the workload that would have to be covered if we left that vacant.
So what I'm seeing is that we would actually, so that's like a full-time person right there.
I have no part-time dispatch. It's
No,
all-
I meant like your
Yeah,
overtime
absolutely.
rate is a full-time person.
Minus, $7,000 or so.
Yeah.
Roughly.
I mean, I struggle with this because the police department is already low. And talking to some officers recently, or not just people at the department, they did bring this concern to me too. So I struggle with removing another vacant position from them because I feel like in the past years we've removed positions but haven't added positions. And you, what do you run? So how many do you run at a time? 2? 1?
Yes. 2 dispatchers.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
And what you were talking about in the past, we did not cut dispatch personnel, but as we come to the next
Well,
topic, we
department
did cut
as a
police
whole,
officers.
I guess I'm talking about department as a whole for these next 2 items. I guess I'm talking as a whole for those.
Sorry.
Because
Yes,
no,
you are
that was
correct.
my fault. I should have clarified. Because I'm guessing your calls either way are not going down.
Correct.
Chief, there has been discussion over the years of possibly combining the systems. We have one for county, one for city. Probably combining those, not you would reduce personnel, but that it would reduce the cost of those systems because they have to be certified every year or licensed every year, something that somebody charges us for. And that wouldn't, wouldn't reduce personnel, but it might reduce some overhead cost with those systems.
You're correct, sir. There's been discussion for years about combining going from 2 PSAPs to 1 and combining with the county. That same NINA staffing tools already been completed, given the calls for service by the city and for the county. And it's suggesting at least a minimum of 14 dispatchers to run that comm center at that point. There's been a lot of talk. I haven't seen any factual numbers or actionable intelligence that shows what that cost savings might look like. The biggest fear I have at this point is as a city, We lose quality assurance and control of how we dispatch our services. I know there's some entities that don't necessarily believe the police department should run the dispatch center. But when you look at the call volume, where the police department responds to over 30,000 calls, you look at all the other entities such as fire and EMS, and they're not, and the Wapello County deputies, they're not even close to that call volume. So I think that the dispatch center is where it needs to be right now, because we service most of the calls in this community.
Well, and it
But
would.
I am open to that discussion. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it would be counterintuitive at this point to look into that because there's some bills in the Iowa legislature that would look at regional dispatching.
Absolutely. That is true. But I've talked to county supervisors. I've talked to Sheriff Phillips. I'm open to those discussions. Been having discussions with City Administrator Rath over it. My supervisor for dispatch, TJ Milliken. And I just haven't seen any hard data that shows that this is really going to be a proactive thing for us or in the positive.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you said you have 2 that are thinking of retiring?
I have 2 that are eligible for retirement of the 6 I have left.
Wow.
And it's our dispatch is pretty much just like the officers. It's very difficult to get people in those positions.
Well, when Edward took me in that room, I was amazed.
They do a great job.
I asked them if they watched TV when they got home.
They're budgeted. They got vacancies. I say fill them. I would almost, since that is an extremely hard position to fill, is train an extra. I don't know, because you got 2 ready to retire, so somebody could come in there.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. They have not given me a resignation or stated they're just eligible through the pension system
Right.
that they could.
But and I think a lot of the public, if I don't want them to understand that a dispatcher from an outsider looking in, it looks like you could come in and train for 2 or 3 weeks and hit some buttons in 911. It is nothing like that. Being a volunteer fireman and doing stuff myself, dispatchers are completely your lifeline to the world. Dispatchers have saved thousands of lives. So I really don't think that's probably where we could afford to cut or get rid of positions.
Because you're at 6 and you're supposed to be at 11.
Yeah, I'm
And
budgeted
if you
for
lost-
8. Budgeted
You're
for 8
budgeted for
at
8,
6.
right.
Yes, sir.
But if you lost one of your 6, if you went down to 5, that would really be an issue, I would think, since you need 2 at a time.
Yeah, we'd be
Or
critical.
if the 2 did decide to retire, and the training period for dispatchers is how long? It's longer than people think. It's 6 months. Like, I mean, you train, then there's a big, large probationary period in there.
Yeah, there's an actual 40-hour school that they attend up in Des Moines, and then when they come back, there's a kind of like our FTO program with new officers. Our dispatchers have a similar program for training. The next one is, oh, I'm sorry. Are we moving on?
Yeah, we can go ahead and move on. I'm just, so just to remind the council as of right now that the easy cuts that Chris presented are on there. The franchise fees are a maybe, and then removal of the new positions other than the code compliance. So there's going to have to be some broader discussions on what else needs to be done.
Yeah, we're at about $165,000 of cuts right now. So quite a big gap to go.
What? Man, I'm going to open a can of worms here. When we're looking at those discussions, we're looking at Planner, the ones that wouldn't. I'd rather look at his position first.
I don't disagree. It's just that
I mean, look,
we're
at
gonna
it,
have-
if we were
if
going
this
to
is-
have additions, he would probably need added first. That's what I
right, and I understand that. I'm just saying that there will be a lot of work left to go if we keep going on the present course. I know that it's the easy thing is to say, yeah, we don't want to cut any positions or not fill positions. But I have been telling you that there's going to have to be some very hard decisions coming forward.
Obviously, the next one, I gave you a quick staffing breakdown as Councilperson Galloway spoke. In FY19, we were authorized to go to 42. We budgeted for that, did not end up getting all those positions filled. In FY22, we still budgeted for the 42, but I was told I was only authorized fiduciary-wise to fill 40. During FY23, we stopped budgeting for those 42 and only began budgeting for 40 officers. So at the time that I'm here, we're at 38 officers. By the end of this week, we will be at 37 officers. I do have a Civil Service Commission certified a list of 2. They're in the process now of going through the additional testing to be eligible to be hired as a police officer. And so that will leave me one vacancy. So we'll be down to 37. So this would be leaving that 40th position vacant. I did the averages again for the overtime rate. The police officers work 2,184 hours annually. Again, there's going to be additional overtime by not having that additional officer on the streets. Also, it's very likely an ancillary position. Patrol's got to come first. So criminal investigator, the community service officer, there's some other position that I will have to leave vacant.
I don't want your job.
I respectfully, I don't want yours, sir.
I don't know, reducing police or fire, the people that protect us, that's really hard pill to swallow for me. So I know we've talked a lot, and I know Cole said we have to make tough decisions, but I don't know, police and firemen on our streets. I just don't think that's it not
We
only,
also have to look at overtime rates too.
right.
And so when we don't fill the positions, we have to look at the overtime rates, which we are being crippled by.
Right. And I just believe not only is the number of police officers we have on the street at any given time, if somebody's hurt or sick, dangerous for us, it's dangerous for them. Being low on firemen, not only dangerous for us, it's dangerous for them. So, I mean, I think those are 2 areas we have to keep. I mean, it's just, I don't think there's a choice. That's a given.
The other thing I didn't, just to add, I do have a retirement date for another officer. That's about a year out. That'll be in June of 27. And then somewhere between May and September, I've got 4 officers that are going to be added to their family. So there's 12 weeks of leave that each one of those can take. So yeah, with shortages and that sort of thing, I'm sure my overtime budget is going to be all over me.
You are just full of good news tonight.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, so the next one is if we ceased operations at the BBC, and this would be if we shuttered the building. And Administrator Rath prepared this, so I'll let him go ahead and discuss it.
All right, thank you. Again, this isn't one that I'd necessarily recommend, and you'll see why in a second here. It actually would cost us money. The estimated gain in revenue would be about $222,000, while the estimated cost and expenditure would be about $255,000. How it came to that revenue is projected revenue for BBC, not including the property insurance, is $507,683. If the city were to close the doors of BBC, then we'd most likely not receive the contribution from BBC Inc., nor the share of the contribution from the hotel motel revenue, which I took the difference of that the 60% that's remaining and basically split it in two, half going to BVC, half going to the beach. So that's 125,000 was the revenue estimated in the budget from BBC Inc. Sometimes it's more, but that's what was currently budgeted. And half of the hotel motel was $160,500. So that'd be a total of $285,500. That off of the 507 is the 222. The expense, the city would pick up the bulk of the occupancy expense that's outlined in the BBC operational budget, the utilities, et cetera, maintenance costs. Utilities were estimated about 192,000 for the current budget, and maintenance and budget repair costs estimated about 62,000 for the 255. Shutdown of the Bridgeview Center would also have a serious impact on limiting an event space for meetings, training opportunities, and personal gathering space. In addition, there's not appear to be a savings, but rather a net loss as expenses projected to outweigh potential increase in revenue. About $32,000, almost $33,000 of additional expense. So it would not be a good idea, in my opinion, to do that. But it was something that was suggested, so we ran the numbers.
So I have a question. Well, I want to process through and have some real conversations. So obviously doing a shutdown of Bridgeview Center is not viable when we look at these numbers. But if we were to sell or lease, and I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, I feel, and that's fine, but these are real conversations. If we were to sell or lease, so let's say we lease to a nonprofit for like $1 a year, and then we would still have and they take over all operations, insurance, all that stuff. But then we would be responsible for like structural building maintenance. Okay. So I want to talk about that. But then I also want to talk about, is there a potential, again, I want to focus on a nonprofit, to sell Bridgeview Center to a nonprofit, take that, whatever we sold it to, reinvest into the building for the structural stuff that needs to, I don't know, structural might not be the right word, but the maintenance that needs to be done. And then we wipe our hands of it. Can we talk through those?
Well, first of all, I'm going to address the sale portion of it.
Okay.
You have to find somebody that's willing to take that on.
Yeah.
I know in some early discussions that in thought process, I looked into it a little bit, and it's not something that it's feasible, but not, really feasible.
Because they would also lose like hotel motel tax and that kind of stuff, because if we didn't own it, we couldn't give it to them.
No, well, no, not
Could we?
necessarily. But what it is that they took on all operations, right? In either one of these scenarios, they take on all the operational costs.
Yep.
Under a lease, what we would do is we would continue to maintain the infrastructure and the shell of the building. Okay. Any other minor maintenance, such as the current contract with Venue Works, any minor maintenance they take care of, right?
Yep.
Major stuff is still our responsibility. Under a purchase, the idea might be that we sell it to an entity for $1 million. We then take and reinvest that $1 million back into the building, and then they go ahead and move forward and operate the facility. There is a potential that if the sale price doesn't cover all of the things that need to be done, we could use some tax increment financing within the district to help pay for some of that. If a nonprofit owns the facility, there would be no property tax gained. If it was sold to a private entity, then it would be assessed, and there would be a property tax. Again, the feasibility of it is finding that organization that's willing to take on that risk.
What would that save us?
What's that? What would that save us? If we did not have to transfer funds from the general fund to the BVC fund, over $400,000.
And that's with a lease, that's with a lease too, right?
Correct, because what we would assume is that by them taking on all of the expenses, and they could keep all the revenue, but they also take on all the expenses, that we would then not subsidize the operation.
Okay. And I said nonprofit kind of in my mind because then, in my mind, I have an idea of a nonprofit that we could maybe work with, but also maybe that would keep the integrity of what Bridgeview Center is, because it is important for our community, but we have to be real as a city. Is this something we can viably continue to maintain?
And the other thing is that under a lease, rather than a purchase, but under a lease, you could set certain conditions that they would have to continue to maintain the facility and its operations in a similar manner, right? So be able to have meeting space, be able to run events and things like that.
If we had a lease with that, and I know this isn't directly to the property insurance, or not property, to the general fund, but I just want to ask, the property insurance would still be under us, right? Or
If it
could
was a
we-
lease, yes, we would still have the property insurance, but we have the that is paid for through the property insurance levy.
When I think of Bridgeview, I think of a tremendous asset that belongs to the city of Ottumwa. And we want the asset to work for us, and it does. It brings in a lot of people, and we really have no idea how much money it brings to the community. It may not always cover the ticket price and add up that way, but the lost money that comes in, the hotel motel tax that comes in, is really hard to figure. Plus, just the niceness of having it, so people can, something they can do and enjoy. But I would say the goal is to make it produce more, advertise it more, get the word out better, so it can bring in more money. So it can be an asset, a true asset. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket instead of takes money out of your pocket.
And I don't disagree with any of that. The struggle is that in many places that are in our similar situation, the hard thing to do is to cut positions or not fill vacancies, right? So it comes down to what's left. Well, what's left is amenities. The catch-22 on this, or the double-edged sword, is that the amenities are what attract people to come and visit and live here. And without the amenities, then we don't get people to come here and live here, which then puts us into a further negative situation. I think that in both the scenarios that Councilmember Galloway proposed, that the BBC would still operate and we would still have the benefit of its services and that the people it brings in. I don't think there's any suggestion, especially with the figures that Administrator Rath presented, that the BBC would be shut down.
Agreed. I don't think it should be.
Right.
No question about that.
Yeah.
We would never shut that building down.
Right.
I'm not sure where we would go. I don't know how long our contract is with the folks that are operating for us right now, but they're hard to find. Good people, good businesses that want to operate a business like our Ridgeview are difficult to find. Otherwise, we'd have 5 people offering different choices.
Right.
We don't have that.
I do believe too that they just hired someone who is doing the sales locally and the advertising, and I think we need to give them a chance on that for the growth that that they're trying to get.
Well,
Also, have we ever considered giving like naming rights to BBC?
I have been saying that for 5 years, naming rights. I have had that conversation for 5 years.
Here's one of the criticisms I have, that the current management, we have encouraged them to get sponsorships. We have encouraged them. The electronic sign that's outside and advertises the BBC doesn't work. We've asked him to find a sponsor for that. And I think that at one time they might have had a sponsor for that, and all they'd have to do is name the theater for him. Nothing has come about. Again, we have asked many times to have that. I do agree with you that they have the new person to do promotions, and that any of the scenarios that Councilmember Galloway proposed is not for next year, but is
Right.
something
No,
that
I
we can look
understand
on. It's something that we can look at in
I'm
the
just looking
future.
at the immediate, and I was just asking.
Yeah, the current agreement has the ability for naming rights if there's somebody that's found to go along with that. And so VenueWorks has the ability to identify people and then get the city permission to name, have an agreement in place for whatever the dollars and the entities would be to name things. So there are provisions in there for that. And I think essentially that's kind of what it comes down to. It's not an attack on BBC. Unfortunately, this is one of the issues with House File 718 and turning off turning down the water. That's, it was mentioned during campaigning about the leaky bucket. Well, it wasn't that the bucket has holes. It's that the water going into the bucket is being turned down. So it's not enough water to fill that bucket. And that's one of the issues we face. There was 13.5 cents that was levied for Bridgeview Center. That helped. It didn't cover all the costs, but it helped. 27 cents that went to the library, 27 cents for emergency purposes. All of those revenues are shrunk, plus, it keeps shrinking in the general fund. And so that is turning down the water that we have to fill that bucket.
So was part of that turned down when, what did Bridge Church used to rent that on a regular basis?
Bridge Church provided revenue with that. Yeah, they had an agreement, and there was also expense that goes along with that too. Now, I don't know if the expense, including capital and all that, would be enough to cover based off of what the agreement was. But yeah, there was revenue coming in from that. There was also expense lost or revenue lost from shows that couldn't come because there were weekends or dates that couldn't be used.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So again, we're not shuttering the building, right? That's a no-go. And the scenarios that were proposed are something that we can think about in the future because, I've said we have to make hard decisions. We have to make hard decisions, but we also remember that let's say we just balance this year's budget, we're going to have hard decisions again next year.
Well, are most of our employees, I know that's on this one of your papers here, but aren't most of our employees getting automatic raises this year, COLAs?
So we have factored into the budget a 2.8% increase. And I believe that all of the contracts have negotiated a 2.8% increase. So yes, that is what the COLA raise is currently projected to be.
So is there a reason we couldn't put a freeze on salaries?
The situation that you would have then is that it would only apply to non-union employees because under the contract, we're obligated to provide the cost of living increase to union employees, right?
But can we go back to the unions and ask them if 1 year we could have a freeze if it was to save their jobs?
I have seen that done in other places. What happens is the next year or a couple of years down the road, they come back and they say, okay, you froze us this year. We're going to make it up. And so it goes from what would have been a 2.8 and the future years might be a 6%.
I see. Thank you.
The big thing to remember with that too is then that is going to keep us further behind with our compensation handbook and just even wages as we are recruiting and doing other things. Anytime you do any type of cost of living.
Well, I don't think we're going to be recruiting with the way we've got our budget right now.
Anytime we are recruiting or we're doing any of that, if you don't have that cost of living adjustment, it's going to make our wages that much lower and we'll have to make that up in the years to come. So we could, but we just have to make sure that we're mindful of that in the years to come and we'd have to build that back in.
Right.
I would like to go back to Bridgeview for a second and mention that the sign that is not functional right now out in front of the building should not fall totally on the venue people's shoulders. We as a city should be out there working on trying to get sponsors and someone who would share in that cost. So,
That's not in our contract. The contract identifies that they're the ones that do that.
Yes.
I don't care. It's not working right now. Who's going to pay for it?
Oh, I agree. It's not working and that's part of the contract. And so if it's not working and the contract's not working, then I think there's other conversations maybe we should be having too.
So some background on this. We did have in the capital budget to replace the sign, but when the problems with the roof occurred, we did not fund that project. We shifted the funds over to the roof with information from Venue Works that they had a sponsor that would pay for it. I have not seen that happen yet.
Good. I mean, not good. I'm glad you haven't seen it happen yet, but maybe it's in the works.
I haven't got a report on that, but I can tell you that the last update we've got is months old. So,
Okay.
Did we ask Bridgeview? I mean, did we just let it get months old, or did we make any calls?
that is outside my responsibility. That would be something with the BBC board.
And there's some other projects that they're working on, because I sit on that board too, and there's other projects that we're working on also.
Right.
And so, I mean, which I don't know if I can talk about right now. So I won't
Right, but I
talk
don't
about
want to
those,
be too quick to jump on Bridgeview here, because the problems that the Bridgeview is facing is not inclusive to Ottumwa. It's to all entertainment venues. And, you know, Scott, in my opinion, does a good job, and he's trying to bring in as much as he can. He hired the assistant. He is being proactive. And sometimes I think when we say we've been waiting for this for 4 months, well, we could have got an answer a week ago if we would have asked. So
I understand that. It's just that my frustration is that,
I get your
that in
frustration.
our conversations, there isn't a follow through. My personal opinion is that if you're given a task, right, I expect you to complete the task, and that my follow through is great. You got it done, and you got it done correctly. That's my philosophy, right? So again, this is my personal opinion on the sponsorship. I was asked about sponsorships. It has been broached with Venue Works. We have not seen the results.
right. And I think all of us believe up here that tasks should be completed, but sometimes you need to reach out for the information. Like I said, I still believe that, you know, Bridgeview is still good for the community. And like I said, the problems they're facing are not inclusive. And I do agree with Councilman Cavanagh on even not just the sign. I still think as a city, we have a contract, but we still need to partner to help make our city better. I mean, you know, I don't want to do nothing illegal for a contract. That's not what I'm saying, but partnering and assisting is not anything but good. So I just want to make sure we're not going in the wrong direction with the Bridgeview.
Understand that outside of that one issue, I believe that we have a good working partnership.
Yes.
Right.
You and I talked about that.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So we do have a good working partnership. Again, the subject of sponsorship was broached. I provided the information that I have currently, and we can move on. So the next two are out of parks. The first one is moving the beach manager to part-time. Total expenditure savings was $72,519. But when you calculate in the reduction of a full-time salary and then add in the part-time salary, the net to the general fund is $34,000 and change, almost $35,000. I added the part at the bottom that patrons may not see an impact on operations, but we would have to have other employees assume supervisory duties when the manager's not there. Additionally, as you all know, you received a letter about suggestions about how to enhance revenue and promote the beach. I personally do not believe that having a part-time manager, they would be able to come up with those programs. And so any other questions I'll leave to Parks Director Rathje to answer.
I would just like to make a comment as he comes up. Gene has done a great job of operating the beach in the past. And the only time he's failed is when we've taken it away from him. And that didn't prove out to be good at all. So Gene, you can go ahead and comment. but I don't see anything in our future that's going to make you a part-time employee.
What we're referring to right now is that the beach manager that worked for us for a few months, she left on February 1st, and that position has been vacant for about 6 weeks now. And the beach is continuing to operate just as good as ever. So my proposal to save the city money and reduce the beach deficit is to replace that full-time manager that left with a part-time year-round beach supervisor, which I had working for me directly for my first 16 years of employment.
Right.
So I just want to clarify that. I'm still the administrative manager of the beach, but I need other supervisors, to work evenings and weekends and so on when I'm not there.
Gene, give me your honest opinion of full-time versus part-time and need.
The full-time beach manager job had a lot of downtime in it during the fall and winter months. During the summer months, yes, they were busy, but based on my experience as 18 years as beach manager, the part-time year-round position is more appropriate because it's more efficient and cost-effective, and there's not as much downtime in the position.
How many hours do they work a week?
25 to 28 year-round for the part-time position.
Full-time, what did full-time work?
That was a 40-hour per week.
40.
40 plus because they were salary.
Right. And I agree with everything you're saying. Just thinking to what I used to previously do is, do we attract the talent we want at part-time? Sometimes you think that's a position. Is there a way to, well, I guess that would still be part-time if you reduced it to 32 to 36. I mean, I'm good with it if you are, and especially since there's nobody in that position, we're not hurting anybody. We're just redoing the position. But so I'm going to kind of have to defer to you on what you think.
Do remember with your suggestion of just reducing it to 30 or 36 or 32, if they're placed in a permanent part-time position, we have to offer them benefits as well. So
Right,
keeping them under 30 is where the additional savings does come in.
Well, and I think that the benefits would help draw talent too, but I was looking at 36 and 32 as I said that, like that probably defeats what I said when I said part-time, because you're still taking hours away.
Gene, do you have part-time people that operate the concession for food in that area? Or is
Yes, they're all part-time or seasonal employees.
Okay. And you recall a few years ago when you started making that operate a little later in the day, people could come and bring their children and have supper, real food. And that improved the attendance at the beach, I believe. I don't think I'm wrong, but that would continue. Can I say that?
Yes, that will continue.
Do you have somebody that's willing to do the part-time position now, or is that something we have to go out and hire for?
I have employees currently working at the beach that I think would make good part-time supervisors. Yes.
And they're willing to take that.
Well, I haven't actually asked them that yet, but if we had to hire someone else that doesn't currently work at the beach, I don't foresee any problems because we've always been able to fill the part-time position in the past.
Okay. So last question, I promise, just to end with, I agree with Councilman Cavanagh. Thanks for the job you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It seems like at the beach, it would be good if there could be some new and fresh programs or some exercise things or something that could be done. And would a part-time person be able to head those up or oversee those?
Yes, they can. Now, I'll tell you, in the past 5 weeks, our morning lap swim numbers have doubled. And evening water aerobics has gone from 3 ladies to 14 because the lifeguards are showing up consistently and the water temperatures are staying at a consistent 83 degrees because we're on top of things. So, enhancing the current programs helps too.
One of the improvements that has been visited in the past is a lazy river. And I don't know very many lazy people, but a lot of them would like to be in a lazy river. So I think that's something that would only take a couple of $1 million to accomplish. I don't think it's in the budget.
It's in our capital.
It's not in the current budget. It is in the capital budget, and I can't remember the exact cost, but that would be something that when it comes around would be, we would have to bond for and reevaluate the cost. Because I think right now it was 2.7 or something like might be for it. But it's pushed out to almost year 4, year 5, which means that the costs by then are going to be increased.
Well, I was just following up with, we have to think of new things to keep people interested and to bring more people to the beach. And that was my purpose for mentioning that.
You're right. Water parks have to add new features periodically to attract new customers. And there's a saying in the water park business that you have to spend $1 million to make 100,000, and I found it to be true.
Adventureland added lights to their slides. Can we do that? I mean, people really like it.
Well, the slide tower already has lights on it, so.
Oh, well, they're like neon lights.
Karen, would you like to go down the slide with neon lights?
Well, I don't like twisty things unless you want to
Oh,
clean
all
the
right.
pool,
Okay.
but
So I'll mark that one down as a yes. Okay. So the second one again is regarding the beach, which would eliminate the beach maintenance position. The total reduction in expenditure is $96,859. The direct savings to the general fund is $55,293 without factoring in any overtime that might come into effect because the maintenance person has to be on call evenings and weekends in case something comes up. As part of this, current park employees would be assigned maintenance duties in addition to regular duties. Employees assigned to, and this is information that I added to this. Employees assigned to the maintenance duties are required to obtain and maintain a certified pool operation certificate. Cost of the training is not calculated as part of this proposal. Maintenance operations are time consuming and require an employee to be on site daily and on call for emergencies. Possible overtime is not calculated in the proposal. While performing maintenance duties, the employee would not be able to perform parks duties and could impact the timing of maintenance on parks and facilities. But I'll turn this over to Director Rathje again for any questions.
could this be a part-time position?
Yeah, that's my question.
During the summer, it probably could not be a part-time position.
Okay.
Just maybe a dumb question, but the beach maintenance position, it says parks employees would be assigned the maintenance duties. Is the beach maintenance position, is that a certified position or specially training position?
They're required to take the certified pool operator class. But the way this has worked out was the current beach maintenance employee transferred to the Parks Department on February 23rd. So he's still available to do beach maintenance. And then we also have another Parks employee that used to be the beach maintenance employee from 2016 to 2020. So to me, it makes sense from an efficiency standpoint to have those two employees do the beach maintenance rather than hiring a new one, have them go through the training process and the learning curve when I already have those two employees on staff.
And they're willing to do it?
Yes.
And the one that is no longer, would he have to get recertified?
The employee that just transferred is certified as a pool operator. The other Parks employee was previously, but he would have to take the test again.
Okay,
Now, the Iowa Swimming Pool Code says they do not have to be certified to do maintenance work, but there does have to be a certified pool operator on duty when the beach is open to the public.
I see. Thank you.
So, sorry, I just want to clarify. You said that they were willing to do it, even the one that just transferred out of that position was willing to do it?
Yeah, they're both willing to do it, but the number of hours where they'd actually be working at the beach it will not be a full-time job for either of them. They can alternate or work as a team when things get busy to keep the work they do there at a minimum. And once again, from October 1st until March 15th, this position had a lot of downtime in it. So that's why I'm proposing this, to make things more efficient.
So Gene, do you ever have a schedule of how much maintenance is required and how many it takes to do that maintenance? You know, I mean, you've had days over there when your pumps break down and all kinds of bad things can happen. But in general, do you have a schedule of what they have to perform in maintenance?
Yes, I do. For example, have a schedule of what it takes to open the beach in the spring, get everything ready, and then fill the pools. And then when the beach closes on Labor Day weekend, I have the same schedule of what it takes to winterize the beach. It's usually a month-long process during the month of September to winterize the beach.
Right, but through the summer, do you have a weekly or monthly schedule of what's required for maintenance or what is done in maintenance at the beach?
I do. And when that employee punches in at 7 a.m., they do things like vacuum the pools, they clean the strainer baskets outdoors, they check all the chemicals and do their required chemical tests. Then right before we open, they turn on all the pumps and motors for the spray features and the water slides. Then at noon, we're ready to go.
Okay, well, it doesn't sound like a simple job to me, but I don't have to do it. So, yeah, I understand. It does take someone or more than one to do all those, perform all those jobs. And the summertime is the only time they have to worry about it. That's when people are wanting to swim. So is there any maintenance required on the slides? Or if so, how often?
For the most part, the slides are low maintenance. It's just the pumps and motors that have to be replaced about once every 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, so I understand the employee that moved out of the position took a pay cut to do so, but they're willing to still do the work of both positions?
Yeah, they're still working at the beach as needed right now.
And they affirm that they're okay with working both?
Yes.
So I hear, okay, so the Parks Department is busy in the summer too, like, I mean, obviously, but so would it be beneficial to have a part-time maintenance person and then when like, especially in the summer, then when needed, one of the other employees with that background would be able to assist? I'm just kind of throwing that out there because I know you don't have a huge department in general.
That's possible, but I think it would be a difficult position to fill. And they would require a lot of training.
So you're saying that you feel like this elimination of this full-time beach maintenance position is good because you've got some part-time guys that could do that?
Well, I have 2 full-time parks employees that could do the
Yes.
work.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've been doing it that way for quite a while. If the full-time beach maintenance employee needs help, I send one of the parks employees over to help him get the pools ready in the spring or paint pools or set up and take down for swim meets and so on. I mean, the Parks Department has already been providing assistance to the beach for a long time.
The biggest problem we have with the beach is we're at the mercy of the weather. If we have rain, we stay home. If we don't have rain, we have lots of people.
You're exactly right. And that's why hot, sunny weather in the summer months is so critical because our main source of revenue at the beach is that front desk daily admissions.
Right.
That's where we really make our revenue.
And may I ask what we currently charge for people to get in to swim or to use the beach,
Yes, in the summer months, it's $7 per person.
including children?
Children under 2 are free, but everyone else is $7 per person.
I didn't hear what you said. Children are what?
Children under age of 2 are free. Everyone else, it's $7 per person.
Okay.
And then in the fall and winter months, it's $5 daily admission.
I actually researched that price a little while back, and that's a good price. For $7 is actually a really good price nowadays to get into an attraction like that.
Are we going to add family passes? I know I've been asked that, and that would generate some revenue.
We've discussed that many times, but then we would have to define what a family is and how many people can be on a family pass. There are a lot of mixed families, and we would have to come up with some parameters on what we would allow on a family pass. But
You'd
we've
have to
discussed
sell-
that many times.
Have to sell a pass for a family with a limit of numbers in the family. So if they had 7 kids and the pass allowed 4, they'd have to pay for 3 more, right?
That's exactly right. You have to set something up exactly like that.
You know, I'd actually thought about that because that is a nightmare. But one of the ideas I'd had was to make it giftable for birthdays, parties, or whatever, is just sell 10 passes or 5 passes, like a punch card, just for a single person. Like, here's for your birthday, you get 5 passes to the beach. I mean, you wouldn't even have to really, maybe you could reduce the price by $1 or something or $2 if they bought it that way. But that would get families in, and that would make it giftable. I know, it's just an idea I had.
Councilman Hoffman, you've got some good ideas. Keep them coming.
Well, I understand that the beach is more important than my above ground pool at home, where you just pour chlorine in until the little stick says it's okay.
Okay.
You have a permit for that?
All right, so that is the end of the ideas for the general fund. One of the things that's on there where we didn't have a submission, and I added those 3 at the end because those were some of those things that were suggested. But with the renegotiation of the school contract, we did meet with them today, and we're probably going to continue with the same arrangement as a 5% increase each year on their hourly rate. However, we did discuss possibly running an after-school program, and that we're going to look into in conjunction with them to hopefully develop. The idea would be is that next March, April, and May, that we would run that as a pilot to see how it works. And then possibly when fall comes around, we would have to discuss with them the hours that they use it for the swim team and arranging the schedule so that we could still have that, maybe have that after school program and still allow the swim team to be able to practice and still allow water aerobics to have their class as well. But it is something we're going to explore and see if we can't create some sort of program. Of course, what we'd look at is take into account what we believe the cost would be, what we would charge per pupil, and then the number of pupils or people that we would need to break even or enhance revenues.
So you mean like a swimming after-school program?
Correct. Right. Using the indoor pool.
I have a question I forgot to ask Gene. Do you have a head count number for lifeguards? If you get 50 people in or 100 people in, how many lifeguards do you have to have on duty?
I assuming you're referring to the outdoor beach.
Yes.
Okay, at the outdoor beach, we use a 9 lifeguard rotation regardless of how many customers there are, because once again, the Iowa Swimming Pool Code says that every water slide or every pool has to have a lifeguard on it. Now, if things get really busy, like at the school parties in the spring, and there are 500 kids there, then we'll put a 3rd lifeguard on the wave pool and a 3rd lifeguard on the indoor pool when our Wibbit inflatable is in the water.
Okay, that
for
makes
safety
sense. Thank you.
reasons. Yeah.
So then as a review of the ideas that were presented, what we have is reducing the laserfish licenses, advertising and legal publications in the city clerks, training and travel and conference expense in the city clerk's office, the administrative specialists in the fire department not being funded this year, but waiting until we see what kind of revenues are returned, possibly adding it in later on, removing the planner position from planning and development, and then part-time manager at the beach and beach mate, and not replacing the beach maintenance.
Well, puts us at right over $255,000, so still quite a bit to go.
And run scenarios on the local option sale, or I'm sorry, the franchise fee. Okay. So the next ones are non-general fund ideas. I believe that again, Administrator Rath, because of inquiries, detailed out if the funding to GoPIP or Main Street was not funded. It is noted that those are not paid from the general fund, but are paid through the Westgate TIF.
All right. Again, this was a request that was made to run the numbers, which is what I did. Would not recommend, but give the report to you. Loss of revenue to GoPIP would have a negative impact upon economic development. City utilizes GoPIP as a partner for economic development to the city and the region. GoPIP supports local business in addition to working to attract new business to the area. Loss of this relationship could give the city a stigma of not being a good partner with other entities and business community. Additionally, it would place a heavier burden for development upon current staff or create a need for new staff. These costs are not expensed out of the general fund at the moment, so there is no benefit to the tax levy or projected shortfall in that fund. Alternatively, the city could see a need to increase expense in the future by not continuing with this partnership.
And in current fiscal year, we moved the 60,000 from the general fund to the Westgate TIF in order to alleviate pressure on the general fund for the current year. Any questions?
I believe it's an important partnership that needs to continue.
Agreed. I mean, I think they've been vital in a lot of conversations that have been happening around the community that are happening and for the future of economic development.
And what are we currently paying GoPIP?
60,000 per year.
And that is for not just the organization, but also the share of the economic development services that they're providing.
That's the total amount we pay them?
60,000.
But that's the total. We don't pay
Yes,
them
yes.
anything else.
There have been separate requests for different events at like Winter Wonderland or different things that the city has chosen to sponsor on top of that, but those are separate requests and voted on independently for each time. And there's an agreement put in place for the anytime the city donates tax dollars to a private entity, we have to have an agreement in place establishing a revenue purpose statement as to why those dollars would be given to a private entity. So we have an agreement when we do that. And there's an agreement with GoPIP for the dollars they're getting now for the economic development aspect as well as the contribution.
And do we get verification of that from them as to how they're spending it and where they're spending it?
Yes, part of it, they give an annual report. And actually, I think GoPIP has been here outside of annual for meetings as well to just provide brief updates on things.
And we have representation on the GoPIP board.
Yes. Okay. Next one.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. The next one was if we were to eliminate the cost share to Main Street. Cost share of Main Street at 100% is $70,000. This is outside of SMID, the Self-Sustaining Municipal Improvement District. We have $30,000 Main Street contribution and $40,000 downtown maintenance plan contribution. And that is also covered out of Fund 125, the Westgate TIF. Loss of revenue to Main Street would have a negative impact upon the downtown, the Main Street area, and most likely result in a loss of designation as the Main Street community by not having the city share in the cost structure. Loss of this relationship could give the city, again, a stigma of not being a good partner with other entities or the business community, specifically the downtown area. Additionally, it would place a heavier burden for development upon current staff or create the need for new staff. These costs are not expensed out of the general fund at the moment. There's no benefit to the tax levy or projected shortfall in the fund. Alternatively, city could see a need to increase expense in the future by not continuing with the partnership.
I also want to note that the number in here says 110,000, and that's not accurate
Where's
on this form.
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
might have gotten
Yes.
copied over
on
wrong
the
then.
yeah, on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you're right. That's not correct. It is the 70,000. But they do they manage the SMID program. So in their absence, we would have to take on management of the SMID and develop the plans. I mean, they come up with the plans, they present them, and then the SMID funds that we hold in reserve would pay for that. The duties of administering the SMID and probably planning projects would fall upon community development.
And the SMID is a tax voted on by the Main Street
Correct.
District.
Right.
The
For certain
participating
projects.
tax
Yeah.
properties
Self-
in the district.
It's something.
Self-sustaining municipal improvement district.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's, or other places that might be referred to as like a business improvement district. It's a tax imposed and voted on by the individuals to, for that purpose. And beautification of the area, different things that the program might work with. And I'll just say, we were talking about GoPIP, Meet Ottumwa, Main Street. These have all been great partners with the city over the last few years and have really helped with the turnaround and the reinvestment that has been seen in the city. I think it would be a true loss to reduce any of those funds.
Well, Main Street alone, I think the numbers I got from the 100 to 300 block is an increase in the last four years of $4 million in value in just those few years. So.
And I mean, Chris, for one, the last few months here has really helped with catalyst grants and trying to get that effort started and improving some of the buildings that city owns, is transferring over, and working with staff to do that. And those efforts would not be there without those funds.
Okay. So the next one on the list was submitted by recycling. Lori's not here tonight, so I'll go ahead and handle this. The estimated savings to recycling would be $51,929.30. I've taken the full-time manufacturing tech to part-time. She does indicate that they may need to open the recycle center an hour later or close an hour early in order to accommodate the part-time position. Could possibly close for 1 day per week. May not be able to find a qualified candidate willing to take less than a 40-hour per week without insurance. This does not take into account a full-time employee being sick, taking vacation days, or other time off. I would suggest that if you have any questions, let me know, and then I can pass those on to Lori and get those back to you.
And I may be able to answer some.
I just have, are we able to approve that, or does it have to go through to the board?
It would have to go through the Solid Waste
Okay.
Commission in order to actually approve it.
So again, between the recycling and the library, and I apologize to Sonia for putting her last, but they're presenting tonight as information, and that their respective boards would then have to approve any change.
Cole, is there somebody in this position right now, currently?
Barb, do we know we have somebody in that position?
We have a retirement date for the person in this position.
Okay, so they would stay as they currently are till retirement, then it would change, correct?
Yeah. This would be a change upon vacancy. And again, it's part of our continuing evaluation of positions. All right, so now we're moving on to the library. Sonia, would you like to just come up and run through them? Thanks.
Well, I came up with 5 suggestions. 3 out of the 5 are eliminating expenditures or moving them. The library is unique amongst the other departments that we have the gift and bequest side account. And so, if you would have asked me when I started this position to have gift and bequest or memorial money pay for some of these, that would have been insane, but we are where we are. So the first one would be an outright elimination. It would only save $1,460. It would be eliminating our shredding service. With that, I could partner with City Hall. I mean, privacy is very important to us at the library, and so we do shred all of anything that has anybody's name or anything on it. And before we had the shredding service, I think we started that in 2021. We went through burned out a lot of electric shredders, but we've had this service for a couple years. That's no real hardship. So it's just not a real big gain either. The second one would be transferring the cost of our bridges or Libby service. That is the state consortium that we belong to that provides the ebook and audiobook access to our patrons. That costs us the FY27 cost will be $7,703. So I'm proposing to move that from our operating budget, which is our 133, to the gift and bequest side. I would probably use Friends of the Library monies to cover that. It would not be a reduction in any services felt, except for that whole account, the 173 gift and bequest, is how we pay for all of our materials and all of our programming. So if we saw a dip in donations or whatever, you ultimately could see some reduction in programming, but I don't foresee that. We usually don't spend through all of that budget. The next one would be covering the monthly subscription prices for our hotspots, our mobile internet. And actually this might go down a little bit, but currently if you multiply our monthly subscription times 12, it would be $3,144. And again, I'm suggesting moving that from the operating side to the gift and bequest side. The final two would be staff reductions. I don't want to suggest this, and part of the difference, I mean, overall, the city budget is not looking brighter in the years to come, but especially that's going to be felt in places like the Bridgeview Center and the library with the loss of the levy. I think we have 2 more budget years on the levy.
Under the current 718, by fiscal year 29, we have to have our consolidated general fund levy condensed down to $8.10. That's without any changes that the legislature may make.
And by taking the 2 or the 3 costs out of the current operating suggestion, that's not accounting for the ideas that I came up with before we even presented. You know, like these are after our presentation, coming up with more cuts. I had suggested raising revenues by, there's not a lot of revenues that come into the library, but raising our costs of printing. It's a very small number, but those costs have not gone up since before I arrived 15 years ago. And another way would be, there's just not as much under my control in that operating budget because we have moved a lot over. So there's utilities, the building upkeep, salaries and benefits, and property insurance. And so foreseeing that we're going to lose approximately, Cole would have to give the exact number, but the last year that we had it broken out as library levy, it was around $183,000. So foreseeing, just using that round number, in 2 years that we're losing $183,000 that you're not going to have just sitting in your savings account to, fix it. It's hard for me to propose cutting positions now because what am I going to give you in 2 years? The 2 positions I did suggest would not affect directly service at the library. It would not mean cutting hours. It would mean parsing all these duties amongst the remaining staff, and that could lead to burnout or, I guess, a reduced attention to customer service because they're busy doing something else behind the scenes. But it's a really hard decision to know when to bring these to you.
So for your information, the amount that we transferred to the library is greater than what the library tax generated originally. For fiscal year 20, I can't remember if fiscal year 25, we held them at fiscal year 24 level. I know that in fiscal year 25, we held them at previous year, or 26, we held them at previous year's level. And the current proposed budget, I gave a 2.8% increase proposed, basically because that was what was the increase in revenue that we were capped at. That 2.8% did not amount to is a really significant amount when you're putting 2.8% on top of the 400 and some $1,000 that we contribute.
And just to give a couple numbers, I'm not really good at numbers, but coming into this part of the process, our shortfall on the operating budget was 89,628. If you just took into account the 3 proposals of moving or cutting of some of those services, it would bring the shortfall down to 77,317, and it would bring I don't know, do we call it carryover? It would bring it up into the advisable rate again. If we took this 2 staff cuts or all 5 suggestions into account, it would bring my shortfall down to 35,873. Another thing to note about this current library budget request is that $68,000 of it is to refurbish the parking spots on the library property side. I couldn't tell you when the last time that was touched, but I can tell you that the library board has been asking me to look into it and requesting that it be done since before 2020. And we've had a staffer fall in the last year because of the break in the pavement. And so that is a priority, but that's $68,000 that I don't normally request in a capital project.
Yeah, and the $68,000 is being is part of the capital bonding for this year. So that is not applied to the shortfall.
Is that area you're talking about concrete or is it gravel? The parking area?
It's asphalt, isn't it?
Asphalt now.
Asphalt, okay.
I'm the wrong person to ask that.
How many total staff do you have at the library?
There's 13 on staff, 8 full-time and 5 part-time. One of the part-time is a janitor and one of the part-time is a secretary. 3 of the part-time are customer service.
I will say that I just want to throw this in there, and I know tough decisions have to be made, but that's my board. That's the board I go to. And before I say what I got to say, I want to throw out there they are an extremely positive board. You throw horrifying numbers or conditions at them, and with a smile on their face, they're just still looking for the best ways to do things. I mean, they just jump on board in a positive manner that I can't believe. So with that being said, like I said, I know tough decisions have got to be made, but when we look at a staff reduction there, I want everybody in this room to think about what a library has done for them in their life. I mean, the library is kind of a behind the scenes city thing where they do much more than we'll ever know. They not only do they give us knowledge and bring people in, I mean, they've given kids a safe spot, giving kids activities that wouldn't normally have those activities, giving kids mentorship that wouldn't normally have that mentorship. So, and I am not in no way putting one department over another, but you got to look at citizens and you got to look at what our local library has done for all of us. So I would just, urge us to look at that really, really careful.
So once again, all those ideas that Sonia presented have to be presented to the library board for any action. It was just to let you know because we do approve the budget once the library board has come up with it and submitted it. So the steps from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take back and make the changes that were approved and give you an update of where we're at on that, and then running the scenario on the franchise fees that at a 1% and a 2% increase to show you where we would be at if we did those and the reductions that were approved. I will try to get those out this week. And then also next week, set up the meetings with council members to go through line item budget that they might have questions with. If the question, any other questions, comments, anything else you'd like, staff will take any suggestions. Any questions?
Would a scenario that you'd need to run be one that includes the things we've talked about tonight, but maybe leaves out the franchise fee and then says,
Yeah,
okay,
so,
here's where
so
the,
what I'll do is I'll give you three different things. I'll give you no franchise fees and all the reductions. Franchise fees at 1% and all the reductions. Franchise fees at an increase of 2% and all the reductions.
I guess one last comment I'll make is, Cole, thanks for putting it all together. I know this is probably a nightmare to put all together. So
What I'm going to tell you is that, again, reiterate, we are not the only community going through this. There are other communities that are in worse shape than us. There's others that are in a little better shape. I can tell from the chatter on the listserv for managers and administrators that even growing cities are struggling. Okay, because they're below the 8-10 limit and they can't increase because of the growth that they have. They can't increase their levy to meet the new growth that happens, and so they're facing a similar situation of having to decide what cuts need to be made in order to balance their budget as well.
And to add on that, I think Councilperson Galloway and Cavanis, we've been to League of Cities. League of Cities is like training for councilmen. And if you go to League of Cities and you have a set of problems for your city in your head, and you get there and you talk to every other city in Iowa, just like Cole said, you see a trend across where it's the same problems people are dealing with and frustrated over.
And what I will tell you is that regardless of the passage of 718, we would still be having discussions on how to reduce expenditures. And that is, I know Travis prepared some slides. He loves using AI to come up with some of these things. And one of the things he did was he kind of compared us to Pella. And what happens is it's not necessarily a levy problem, it's a valuation problem.
right.
And because Pella has greater valuation, right? They take in more money, but they have a less. Their levy rate is less. But if you look at the tax per capita, they have more tax per capita than we do.
Right.
Yeah, and you see the same thing when I provide the comparisons and for our comparables. Mason City, highest valuation, lowest tax rate, highest tax per capita. This year, I want to do something different with that. What I want to do is instead of just giving the total valuation, I'm going to break it out by the residential, commercial, and industrial because I'd really like to see, do they have a significantly more in residential than us, but the commercial industrial the same, or do they have significantly more in commercial and industrial, which changes kind of the scenario and what the actual tax burden is to residents. So I'll do a little better breakout this year with that, so you get a better idea of where we compare it to those other cities.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Chris, take the roll, please.
Councilmember Hoffman,
Yes.
Councilmember Dupre,
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanis,
Yes.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
I thank you, council, for all your input, and do remember, St. Patrick's Day next Tuesday, wearing the green is mandatory.